so, Cyndy, come on up. I'm going to invite my friend Cyndy Sherwood to share with us her and Brian's journey in this.
Many years ago, suicide touched the fringes of my life when my father's brother took his own life, and then a number of years later, my father's mother, my grandmother, did the same. In 2004, however, suicide touched far more than the fringes of my life. Brian's daughter, my stepdaughter, was 19. Brianna in school never got along very well, but she finally graduated from high school, and it was a great victory. And we were so excited. We had a big party in our backyard and celebrated with all the family and her friends, and it was just inconceivable to us at that moment that we only had a month left with her. Everyone liked Brianna. She was bubbly and she was effervescent. She was like a sparkle in my life. In our early years together, we struggled like most stepmoms and stepdaughters do, but we eventually found a positive place in each other's lives. And one day while Brian and I were having lunch at the restaurant where she worked, we could tell Brianna was struggling, and tearfully she shared with us about some hard things that were going on in her life, but normal teenage struggles, and Brian and I encouraged her as much as we could. A few weeks later, Brian and Brianna were texting each other. She was on the outs with her best friend, and Brian was encouraging her to forgive her friend. And then later, she left a voicemail telling her dad that she had forgiven. That was Wednesday, October 18th, and the last word we ever had from Brianna. Late Sunday afternoon, August 22nd, Brian heard from his ex-wife that Brianna had been missing since the day before, and even though many people had been out looking for her, we had not been called. His ex-wife said she heard a shot late Saturday night, but never could find Brianna or figure out where it was coming from. But she knew Brianna was last seen at a park near their house. Brian arrived at the park alone, and surprisingly, even though many people had looked for her, Brian went straight to the site and found Brianna. While horrifying to me, the thought that Brian was alone with his daughter's body. He will tell you it was a great gift from God to be the one who found her and to have 30 minutes with her before anyone else arrived. And I guess it's only something a father might understand. To Brian, it was at the same time a holy moment and the worst moment of his life. I mean, who can understand these things apart from God? We don't have a chance. I was an hour away at a restaurant when he called me, and the family converged at the park, along with the coroner and the police and Stuart and friends. It was every parent's worst nightmare. In a moment, the brain is scrambling to make sense of this information that seems unbelievable to you, but the proof lies just a few feet away. And you don't know what to do, and you don't know what to say, and you don't know how to breathe. And people are asking you questions and saying things to you, and things need to be done, but the fog rolls in, and suddenly nothing makes any sense anymore. That first week, your day has structure, and you walk in a dreamlike state. There's the mortuary, and then there's the viewing. Was it really only 1 week ago that Brian and Brianna were texting each other? She was still alive then. Then there's the private gravesite burial. Then there's the public memorial service, and you're shocked to see hundreds of people here in this very room, half of which are teenagers, standing room only. 6 people accept the Lord at the service. God uses death to bring life, and I gloat at the blow this brings Satan. And we're asking ourselves every day, why did she do it? And we didn't know then. And today we still don't know. And you think you're having the worst week of your life, but what you don't know, gratefully you don't know, is that the worst is yet to come. And how can I help my husband, who has still the deeper layer than I do? This was bone of his bones, flesh of his flesh. So many dreams shattered in a moment. She was his princess. No parent should ever have to bury a child. It's just wrong. It's out of the normal arena. Children bury the parents, not the other way. In the weeks following Brianna's death, we were swallowed in darkness as the horror began to sink in that she's gone. We're never going to see her again. Really, God? Haven't we been through enough? I mean, Brian had already been through a really tough 12 years. His wife had an affair and walked out and left him to raise these 3 kids by himself. It had been so hard, but things were finally getting better. And then this. Really? I had someone ask me why God didn't try to save Brianna from taking her life, and I was stunned at the question because God was there. God was fighting for Brianna all the way, but Satan was there too, and Brianna chose to listen to Satan's voice and not God's. Why do we always want to blame God for the choices we make or the choices other people make? This was Brianna's choice, and it was not in God's will. It was so hard, and it was so sad, and it was so stressful, and it was so relentless, and every day you think you can't live another day with such unbearable pain, and then without your permission, the sun rises again, and you realize you have to do another day. It's like walking across the Sahara. You can't spot life in any direction for a very long time. And I share my story today because too many people are stuck in the Sahara and never find their way out. And it doesn't need to be that way. It doesn't need to be the end of the story. I share this today because I never again want to hear those words, the day my child died was the day my life ended. I'm here today to tell you that God has healed Brian and me. It wasn't easy, and it took a while, but it happened. It's not a matter of whether God can heal even these most difficult wounds. The real issue is whether we will allow God to heal us. Will we give God a chance? We're usually so mad at God for allowing the tragedy that we want very little to do with him, and we push him away in our anger and in our judgment. And God understands us, and God is patient with us. But at some point, we have got to turn and go in the other direction, or we'll be stuck in the Sahara forever. Brian was stuck there 6 years when, at the request of several men, he began the first men's healing journey class. And that was a decision that started real change in Brian's life. Not only did the other men in the group get healing, but Brian was able to process through his anger, his judgment against God, his grief over Brianna, losing her, his heartbreak, and he was able to forgive. And life returned. Today, Brianna has been gone 13 years, and we still think of her all the time. We still love her. We still miss her. We cherish our memories together, but we're no longer in the desert. We are both whole and healed. However, that isn't the end of the story. On April 9th, 2015, the phone rang again. Again, I was sitting in a restaurant having dinner when I heard those heart-stopping words. Your grandson took his life today. He was only 16 years old, and we were right back again where we had been in 2004. And the painful journey began all over again, but I knew God. I knew his love. I knew his power, and I knew he would get me through it just like he had before. And only 8 months after Kobe died, the phone rang again, and I learned my father had committed suicide. December 13th, 2015. Unbelievable. 5 suicides. It's just too much to think about. The last 2 years have been painful and hard, and I would not wish this on any human being. But just like before, after walking the healing road that God has provided for us in His Word, life has returned, and joy again is on the horizon. Life is good and full, and my relationship with God is strong and intimate. I would never have gotten through this any other way.
Thank you, Cyndy.